I'll take you through India growth story. Well, I'll present you only numbers. There won't be any perception. I'll just show you some numbers how India has performed in recent years on different numbers. So first I'll cover those numbers on which we are going down. So by down I mean rank is going down. If we were 10th, we have become 3rd now. Probably no other slide will explain India's emergence as this one single and the simplest slide in our presentation. So in 1990 our GDP rank was 13. From 1990 to 2012, that is in 22 years, we could only improve from 13 to 10. But from 2012 to up till now, we are 4th now already, and we will be 3rd in another 2-3 years. So, instead of taking GDP growth numbers 6%, 7%, 8%, this is something which gives us a relativity of our growth as compared to other countries in the world. So, I was born in 1986, and at that point of time, more than half of the population was below poverty line. Below poverty line means you can't even afford proper 3-course food. Right now that number is down to only 4.5%. Now when it comes to poverty, there is one very simplistic manner where you say ki if you are earning less than this amount, you are below poverty line, but there is more nuanced parameter which is known as multidimensional poverty, which shows apart from my financial earning, it should be about my access to health, access to education, access to clothing, access to housing. Now that multi-dimensional poverty is also down to 11.28% from the highs of 56% in recent past only in 2005-06. So within 20 years, our multi-dimensional poverty has come down from 55% to 11% only. A very hot topic in India always has been unemployment. Now there are all kinds of school of thoughts about unemployment in India. From the industry side, the complaint is that we don't have proper employable people. We don't have a skill set. We don't have efficiency. But even if we discount those kind of complaints, if we look at absolute numbers, unemployment is down to 3.2% from the highs of 7.6% in 2016. Illiteracy rate is down to 19%. So 91 is supposed to be a very landmark year in India because of economic reforms, etc. In year 91, majority of Indians were illiterate. Majority. That number is now down to 19%, but a more filtered number I'll tell you, we are almost at universal schooling. Universal schooling means all the school going kids are already in schools. So fiscal deficit is one of those macros number which defines not only government's spending and earning, but it also has an effect on inflation, on employment, on financing rates, etc. Of course, in financial year 21, like the whole world, our fiscal deficit went almost double digit, but that fiscal deficit is now down to 4.8% only and estimated to be 4.4% only in next year, one of the lowest in the world. India's dependency ratio. So we always talk about young nation, young population more in India, etc. Dependency ratio means how many people are dependent on earning people. Again, that ratio will be down to 30% in 2050. It is already 47% from the highs of 78%. So typically in presentations, you always get to see graph going like this, but we have made a unique combination of graph going down in these slides. In good old days, there used to be a parameter ease of doing business, which was conducted by a UN appointed body, which used to tell how easy or difficult it is to set up a business in particular country. Now that ranking for India used to be 131 in 2012. Last ranking, because no other ranking came afterward, it was 63 in 2020. Now I'll take those numbers where India is going up. GDP. So our GDP from 327 in 94. So within 30 years, our GDP has become almost 11 times. So it is $4271 billion in 2025. Again, so instead of going for absolute parameters, I am again taking you to a relative parameter which tells India's contribution to world GDP. We are almost 16-70% of world's population, but certainly our efficiency is much lower than even the average of the world. So our contribution to world GDP is touching 3% now from the lows of 1.16 when economic reforms were introduced in India. So our contribution to world's GDP in percentage term has tripled in last 30 years. GDP per capita, so there is a, so UN has defined slabs of income like middle income, higher income, lower income. So we have moved to lower middle income group because our GDP per capita is already around 3,000, but we will be 4,500 in 2031 within next 6 years. Total exports, again a growing trend only from the lows of 52 in 99 to 824 in last year. And you can see it's a secular uptrend only. India's exports as percentage of global export. Again, let's take a relative parameter, how we are growing as compared to the world. So as compared to the world, we were 1.5% in 2005, just 20 years back. Now that contribution is more than twice, it's 3.3% of world's exports. Per capita GDP I have already covered. Life expectancy again to the lows of 38%, 38 years. So I believe 95% of the attendees over here will be more than 38 years. So if we were born in 1954, we won't be here. That includes me also. But right now that number is 71. Individuals using internet, again, so we look at internet as, connection to Netflix. But think of an Uber driver. If he gets internet access, he gets access to formal economy. He doesn't have to, keep searching for clients. He can define his working hours. He knows that this is the rate that I'll get. So the kind of change internet access has brought to bottom of the pyramid in India is phenomenal. So, so we have some states which are labor deficit and others which are labor surplus in India. So Bihar is supposed to be labor surplus state in India, so they export their labor to other states. One of the biggest leakages for a Bihari labor in Mumbai was sending money to hometown. They will send it through unorganized channels and the commission over there will be very high. Now that work can be done within 30 seconds by using UPI. All thanks to access to internet only. Average monthly SIP. So before taking you through this slide, I'll take you through this slide. In last 10 years, in fact, in last 10 years, FIIs have been net sellers, cumulatively speaking. And you can see mostly they are net sellers only. If you look at this violet color line, still our markets are giving high returns. Why? This is the answer. 25,000 worth of SIP, 25,000 crore worth of SIP going into mutual funds every month. So when I started my career that year, the whole industry's net sales for the whole year was 24,000 only. Now I'll take you through some government welfare schemes. Why I decided to include this part also. No country can develop really until unless bottom of the pyramid is taken care of. Even I am a big time capitalist, but even for capitalist economy, you need big market. And if a large part of your economy is engaged in cutting wood for cooking food, certainly their productivity is not being put to best use. So in 2014, the number of bank accounts in India were 80 crore. And additional bank accounts opened in last 10 years was 20 crore. Between 2014 and 24, that number has increased to 51 crore. And we always keep in saying there is a concept of low base effect. So if 10 people are left to open a bank account, it's difficult to cover those 10 people as compared to covering 10 people when 40 people are left to open bank account. So in that sense, and again, this has again brought inclusion, financial inclusion for a large population. Now our maids can take money in their accounts directly without having to think about sharing that money with their drunkard husband. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, So basic hygiene, even that was not accessible to most of our people. So if we look at sanitation, now 100% of India's population has access to toilets, and that too in rural areas. LPG collection. So why I mentioned about cutting woods and cooking food by it, they didn't have access to LPG connections, and it was not only about affordability, it was also about that people were not reaching that segments. But government took a call कि we need to reach to those segments, and here are the results. So between 2004 to 14, there was 40% increase in LPG connections. Between 14 and 24, it was 80%. UPI, the biggest luxury that we have in India, we don't have to carry cash anymore. If you forget your wallet at home, you can still manage with your mobile phone, provided there is battery in it. So distinct UPI transactions have increased from 70 crore to 1000 crore in 5 years only. And again, I'll take you through one relative number. So there is in financial payment industry, there is a term known as instant payment. Instant payment means that payment, credit and debit should happen within a certain time frame. We have almost half of the instant payments happening in the whole world. So we were cursing just now that our population is 16%, but our contribution to world GDP is only 3%. So that means our efficiency is 1/5 of global efficiency. But over here, in spite of having just 16% population, our contribution to instant payments world over is almost 50%. UPI versus cards. So in every country, payment gateways like MasterCard, Visa have got monopoly. In India, it's other way around. If you look at number of transactions, 55 crore people in India now have access to insurance, all thanks to Pradhan Mantri Arogya Yojana. Roti, Kapda, Makan. So in 60s, 70s, we used to have themes of Bollywood. I always believe that Bollywood is one of the best mirrors of the society. So in 60s and 70s, we used to have poverty as the underlying theme. We used to show that, large population is struggling for something as basic as Roti, Kapda, Makan. And the situation remains same even now. But if you look at these numbers, while in 2014, we had only 40 lakhs urban households built by the government, that number increased to 3 crore in 2024. Now I'll show you some of the government reforms and what has been their impacts on the economy. I'll be covering these PLI scheme, Make in India, GST, Startup India and NCLT. So one of the biggest challenges for banking industry the world over is NPA, non-performing assets. So earlier in India, there used to be 2-3 reasons because of which bankers used to suffer a lot. One was evergreening of loans. You are not able to pay interest on the current loan, you take another loan and you pay interest on the same. Second was there was no standard definition of how NPA will be defined. So it was at the mercy of the local bank officials whether they will define it as an NPA or not. The third was that recovery mechanism was very slow, arbitrary, and there was no definition to it. Then IBC came. IBC first defined what is NPA. They defined if interest is not paid on the loan for 6 months, it will be classified as an NPA. Second thing what they did, they listed down top 20 defaulters of that time. I'll show you the slide in next slide and you will be amazed to have those names over there. They listed down top 20 defaulters and they defined that they will have time-bound resolution done by a professional tribunal. Hence, from the highs of 12%, so we have covered the numbers from 2019 over here, but in 2014 or almost the same time, the NPAs in India were more than double digit, they were 12%. From the highs of 12%, they have come down to 2.3%. So what is the significance of this number? Banks have more money to give loans. Banks can be confident in giving loans also because they know that if there is default, they can recover their underlying also. So in previous avatar of recovery, which was SARFAESI Act, the recovery rate was 14%. In NCLT, it's around 40-50%. Recovery rate is against your loan default amount, how much you were able to recover. So I was born in late 80s. I was born in 1986. For my generation, Videocon used to be a very respectable name. But you can see that name over here. Many of these names used to be very respectable name. They used to call the shots. But after IBC, all of them were नीलाम कर दिए गए. Again, परेश सर यहाँ पे हैं. बॉलीवुड में there is a very famous term, नीलाम कर दिया जाएगा. They were auctioned off. And even for auctioning, there were rules defined. There were rules defined that promoter can't come back from the back channel. Number of recognized startups. So we are one of, so in this high number 1,80,000, we are also one of the recognized startups by India. But look at the trajectory. In 6-7 years only, from 8,000 it has gone up to 1,80,000. Unicorns. So unicorns are those companies or startups whose valuation is more than $1 billion. So there are 120 unicorns in India. Now we all can have our views that it's not sustainable, pricing is overvalued, but this is the reality. This is about PLI. So people have all kinds of views about Make in India, what is happening and what is not. I'll show you some of the numbers. So this is the input from the government side. What government did? Government merged PLI with import substitution. So earlier there used to be discount in establishing the production, but now government said government gave targets to the industry that you achieve this much number of this product and we will give you this much discount. This resulted into having more and more production, import substitution, more so in technologically high segments like mobile phone, electronics, etc. So the first on the left side is about mobile phone exports from India. The second is mobile phone production in India. The third one, so in 2017-10, we were net importer of mobile phones in India. Right now, we are net exporters. We are producing more than we are consuming, so we are exporting the rest of the production. Apple iPhone is supposed to be one of the biggest technological advancement for retail products under individual category. India's contribution to global shipments of Apple will be 25% in 2025. So these numbers are awaited to come, but this is supposed to be the estimated number for last year. And India's electronic export, again you can see the progress from 2.6 in 2020 to 330, more than 10 times. So recently, people earning up to 12 lakhs in India, income tax for them was made 0, up to 12 lakhs. And believe me, 12 lakhs is a respectful, decent amount to earn in India per year. The reason behind it was GST, that government has this confidence that by GST we will be able to achieve certain numbers which are required for keeping the fiscal deficit in control. So I showed you the fiscal deficit number which has gone down like this, in spite of all the spendings by government on welfare schemes, by giving all the discounts in income tax, etc. And after this 12 lakh, I think 80 or 85% of the people paying income tax earlier became income tax non-liability. And it has been possible because of this only, that while in 2014-15, 10 years back only, our indirect tax collection was 5.46, it is now 22 lakh crore per year. And there are some estimates that this year it should be around 30 lakh crore. So that's the long and short about India's growth story. The idea is just certainly to convince you about Indian markets, because that's where we work. But even as Indians, I think this is something that we should be proud of. And I'll share one anecdote with you. I am a pass out from IIT Delhi. So I was looking at profiles of IITians in last 30-40 years. And I could see a trend that IITians moving outside India is coming down in last 30 years. So in initial year, that trend was not that much visible, but now people moving out by default being IIT is no more the default option in India. So thank you. Thanks a lot for listening to this presentation.